So what do you do when you're faced with something traumatic, maybe a life-threatening health condition or something that's really serious in your life that is beyond the normal? Hi, my name's Elizabeth Eleanor, and I'm an intuitive empath. This is day 28 of 365 days on YouTube, and I'm sharing things that have happened to me, the magic, the traumas, the experiences, and all the things. I've had a pretty crazy life, from 3 shooting stars when I asked for confirmation from the universe that I was on the right track, to meeting the love of my life in a fairy tale experience on the beach. My maiden name was Payne, Payne, and his last name is Makepeace. So how do those things happen? It's all to do with connecting with the universe or your higher self, your soul's journey, right? And I've been on this spiritual awakening path for 27 years, and I've had some crazy experiences through that process. And one of them was finding out that I had a 15 centimeter fibroid, and I wouldn't be here if I hadn't have surrendered. So I want to talk about surrender because our let's get into it, right? Our limited self, the part of us that sees ourselves as separate and connected to the earth and just in this body, wants to dictate the ins and outs and the rights and wrongs and how things should be based on what our childhood was, based on our conditioning, our culture, all of the things from the past, because it's wired into our unconscious, which is like a little computer system that has this program of all the ways and possibilities of what is available to us. And it's limited. It might be based on billions of decisions that we've made since childhood, millions of decisions based on our past lives, generational decisions from, traumas and tragedies and, successes even from our forefathers. It's in our bloodline, it's in our DNA, and yet it's still limited when you know that you can actually access a higher part of yourself, which I call the superconscious, or your soul's connection. Your soul has an agenda that it came down here to experience. So that's what happened to me when I found out that I had a 15 centimeter fibroid. I was 9 weeks pregnant and discovered that I had this huge mass in my body. And one of the first things that I did was I connected into my higher self. Why did I create this? Why is this in my story, my movie, right? What's going on that's brought me to this spot? And I listened. I listened to all the things that my higher self was sharing with me. And one of them was that I had a belief that it's very hard and laborious to create. So I had to shift that energy. I tuned in to the fact that my body wanted healing. And so I just went straight into all sorts of stuff, from alkalizing my water to doing a heavy metal detox. I cleaned up my system completely and listened to what my body had to say. But what happened was I went through this process where I lost the baby. Her name was Sarah, and I lost her when she was 20 weeks. And she was, beautiful little girl. I actually birthed her. And the very first thing that happened, and, I have been talking through this whole experience so far about being in fifth dimension, where everything's in unity consciousness. So if you haven't watched any of my videos and this is the first one you're watching, hi, welcome. I'd love for you to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, and just jump back in and check out some of the other things that I've been sharing, because all the way through, I've been sharing with you how to disconnect from the matrix, right? How to you know, we live in a third dimensional reality where there is us and then there's separation, right? Hot and cold, good and bad, right and wrong, light and dark, you know, us and others, right? And so when we're in that separation, that's when chaos can happen, because we're not recognizing our ability to connect at that higher level with our higher self, with our soul's wisdom. So that's fifth dimensional reality. When you can step from the third dimension into the fifth and totally connecting with what your soul chose to experience, letting go of all judgments, letting go of all, you know, past experiences or any of the traumas and the triggers and the emotions that come up. When you can let go of that and just be completely in alignment with what it is that you're here to do, that's where the magic happens, right? And this is where conscious relationships are formed, because you're having a conscious relationship with your higher self. So when Sarah came out, the very first, you know, not many people can understand this, but the very first thought I had was it was meant to be. I just had this moment of total surrender, because I knew that that was her journey too. And of course, you know, I'm a mother. I have two other children, and I went through grief, and, you know, not a lot, because it was my soul, my body that grieved. Like, you know, my mum had a stillborn before I was born called Bradley, and she had a different experience than me. She has never let go of that trauma and that grief, and has, you know, I was raised knowing that, you know, her little boy had died and that I was born because of that, which was a bit challenging as a child. However, so, you know, there was moments like my body grieved walking out of the hospital without my baby in my hand, right? As we drove into Youngaborough, which is where I was living, I had a moment of, you know, driving in without my child. You know, when my milk came through, you know, that was another part of me that grieved. Years later, I had a really healing deep tissue massage, and my womb had a moment of grieving that my womb had lost this baby. So the body has its own memory, and it's really important to allow the body to have that memory and to release that trauma, right? However, when you're really connected with your higher self and that soul's wisdom, it's a different story on the fifth dimension. You know, Sarah's body has passed, but I still connect with her. She's one of my guides. She's one of, you know, she's someone that comes and whispers in my ear. She's got a very pixie energy to her. And so she's always egging me on to create more impact in the world and to live in my truth, which is to, you know, spread the word of moving into fifth dimension where we're in unity consciousness. So she's on me all the time whenever I let her in to talk about it. And so that process was an interesting experience, because there was a part of me that was resisting the process. So hear me out, right? And I want you to take a moment to tune into your own experience. You may resonate. There might be something within you that's holding on to, you know, an old trauma, or you've had an experience, or you're having an experience right now. And that's why you've stumbled across this YouTube video. There was part of me that resisted being operated on. So I was very close to 40. I think I was 38 years old, and I had a 15-centimeter fibroid, and I was 9 weeks pregnant. And you can imagine the doctors in a little country town, they all freaked out. all the specialists. No one wanted to take me on as a client, and they handed me from one person to the other. And finally, I got onto a woman that was a female gynecologist, and she said, it's all good. I had a fibroid and had twins, and I've, got my uterus and all the things. Because they were saying that definitely I would lose Sarah at this stage. They were saying that, and also that they were going to have to take my uterus out, right? So after I had the experience of, it was a 38-hour labor. It was really intense because the hormones hadn't kicked in. So the pain levels were through the roof. And I think it was about a month later that I started having pain. Now, you've got to know that I had no idea that I actually had this fibroid in me. Apparently 15 centimeters is pretty big. Now, I had 3 masses come out this big. So how they said it was 15 centimeters, I don't know. But what happened was, once Sarah left, they were saying they were going to take my uterus out. So I'm like, no one is touching me with a knife, right? I've got my tonsils, I've got my appendix, I have not broken a bone. I'm pretty clean and clear when it comes to operations, right? And so I was not having a bar of it. Resistance. I was resisting the process. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was pushing against the situation, right? Now, resistance, what does resistance feel like? Just think about that in your own life. What does resistance feel like in your life when you're resisting something, right? There's this psychological tension. You can feel it in your body, right? I don't want to do this. That was me. So I was looking after myself. I was cleaning up my diet. I was doing all the things. I was on medication from a naturopath. I'd looked at my mindset. I'd done some spiritual work to clear anything that was a vibrational discord, all of those things. And still, I started having this pain. So I was about a month in, and I started having pain. And I'm talking pretty intense pain every single night. Now, I'm a Virgo and I'm a bit stubborn. So your mouth might drop, but for 2 weeks, I had pain of a nighttime. And it was so severe that I would have to rock and move, and I'd be in and out of showers. I was trying to deal with it myself. I wouldn't even tell my partner that I was having it because I knew that he would want me to go to hospital. So I was in this place of no one's touching me with a knife and I can sort this out myself, right? But wasn't doing a really good job about it because the body is in pain for a reason, right? It's a sign that there's something going on. What happened was my higher self had this moment where she got through and she said to me, what if this is part of your journey and you're supposed to have your uterus taken out as part of your soul contract? And it hit like a chord, because my spiritual journey is more important to me than anything else on the planet. And that moment, I realized that I was in resistance and I was holding on to my uterus, which was just an organ in this physical body that I was attached to, and all the things, right? The cut in my body, the operation, all of those things, I was resisting it. And as soon as I had that thought, I went, oh my gosh, if this is part of my journey, then I'm in, right? Now, you got to know, I had 2 weeks of pain every single night, and all day I'd be sleeping, right? It was a pretty intense time. That moment that I had that thought, I then grieved the process of letting go of my uterus. I imagined not having a uterus. I spent a bit of time crying and appreciating all the things that my uterus had given me, the children that I had, you know, alive and past, right? And I had a moment of just connecting in with my womb, my body. I grieved, I went to sleep, and I had 3 days of no pain because I surrendered. I surrendered to what God, universe, higher self, soul, whatever your language is. I surrendered and I stopped trying to control it myself as the little identity, as the Elizabeth part. I let go and let my, you know, as I say, let go and let God, right? I let go and I went, you show me. And I had 3 days of no pain. What happened was the next time I had pain, 3 days later, it happened again. So I went to the doctor, went to the emergency. They gave me morphine, monitored me for a little while, went home, everything good. Second day happened again. I think it was the second or the third day that I was in so much pain. I was on their floor screaming, give me your drugs, right? I was in agony. They got me an emergency an emergency Caesar, an emergency gynecology clinic appointment, right? Sorry, I couldn't think of what it was. So they got me a clinic appointment and I went and saw a doctor. And that's down, you know, I was living in Cairns. I was living in the Tablelands at the time and I had to go down to Cairns. And it was a male during the day. And I had never had pain during the day, right? So now I want you to know, I surrendered. I gave all of this power and control over to my higher self. Here I am, I go into the clinic and see a male gynecologist who wasn't even looking at me, right? He's sitting there listening, you know, reading, taking notes, right? Wasn't even looking. And during the day, for the first time ever, I start having pain right in front of him. I tell him, oh, it's starting to come on, you know, this is how it starts, blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, let's go in and have an ultrasound. Who is sitting at the desk that we walked past, but the female gynae that I had seen previously and was the only one that had given me any hope. She sees me, she realizes that I've lost Sarah. She goes, oh, sorry, hun, blah, blah, blah. Hey, can I come in? So she comes in with us and she says, has anyone given you an internal ultrasound? And I said, no. By that stage, I'm in so much pain that I start, you know, getting confused. And all I remember is her saying, oh my God, we need to get this woman in now. I must have blacked out because the next morning I woke up in hospital, tubes everywhere, and she walked in the door. And she said, I'm so glad to see you. And I sort of smiled and giggled. And she said, no, I don't think you realize. But she said, I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning worried that you were going. She said, you were this close to completely leaving the planet. Now, apparently my uterus was completely infected and there's some sort of, you know, vein or artery that goes straight to the brain. And I was very close to death. So it was life-threatening. If I had not of surrendered in the moment that I did and listened to my higher self and done exactly what she told me afterwards, I would not be here. Because I laid in that hospital afterwards, they had 3 different types of antibiotics. One that was the highest, most potent antibiotic that you can get. So they had to keep on taking my blood to make sure they weren't poisoning me. I got a rash all over my body, my arm swelled up. It was a horrendous experience. But what happened was I started giving birth basically to these masses. And so while I was in hospital for 2 weeks, and I'd be in pain again and all the things, and I'd wake up with this thing. And they said, no, 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 it can't be, it's not your fibroid. It can't be. You can't get rid of a fibroid that way. So they said it must be a polyp, or it must be something else, right? So when the third one released, they did an internal examination and said, you know what? We don't know how you're doing it, but it's the fibroid. You're getting rid of it, and there's only about a quarter of it left. So we, did this, and this. So I imagined the last bit of it. I saw it shrinking. I did all this white light stuff, all the stuff that I know. I stopped having pain. I stopped, releasing it. They let me out. Within a couple of days, I went and saw my local GP, and he just happened to have a mobile ultrasound machine, which was very rare at the time. And he said, his wife was one of the acupuncturists that I was seeing as I was doing my own stuff. So he knew that I was a bit alternative. And I said, I just want you to monitor me. I'm still going to do my stuff. And so he did an ultrasound, and he said, well, at the moment, I can't see anything, but we've got to wait 3 months and let your cycle come back, and hormones and all of those things. And 3 months later, I go back and there's no fibroid, and everything went back to normal. I still have my uterus. I don't have a scar on me. According to the medical profession, it's a miracle. I remember going to a conference once, and one of the women that was talking, I don't remember her name, but she had a book that she had published called The Fertility Bible. She'd been on Oprah. She was very well known, and she sat next to me, and I told her the story, and she had her mouth drop, and she said, I've been doing this for 20 odd years and I've never heard a story like that. She said, you need to share this. So why did that happen? Because I surrendered. We need to let go of thinking we know what's going on and trying to control the situation, and really tap into our higher self, into that part of us, that super conscious, I call it, the part of us that knows way more than we do, and do that on a daily basis through meditation, through connecting every single day before you go on any of your social media, any of your being influenced by anything outside of yourself externally. Really tap into that part and tune in and go through the journey by moving into that relationship with your higher self. And you need to do that by surrendering. Unfortunately, 12 years later, and only 5 years ago from here, when I'm doing this right now, 5 years ago in January, was it? Yes, it was in January. I also had a 4.5 centimeter brain tumor. And one of the first things that happened was, this time I just went bang straight into, okay, I need to listen. And I listened straight away. And this time my higher self said, you need the operation, you need to get it out. And I went and had it out. But that's for another video. That was an amazing, amazing experience, because from the very start, there was no resistance, and I just listened, and there was magic all the way through, including a 5-figure payout coming into my account, as I had to have 2 months off work. And so magic and miracles happen when you connect in with your higher self, when you move into that 5th dimensional reality where everything is in unity consciousness. And so surrender is a really important part of that process, letting go of the ego and allowing yourself to hear the voice of your higher self. So if you're interested and would like to connect in any way, all of my links are below in the box, and I will catch you tomorrow.